You don't hate people. You just don't need them the way other men seem to. And you stopped pretending that was a problem a long time ago. There's a version of Saturday that most men dread. Nothing on the calendar, no plans, no one coming over, no obligation pulling them anywhere. You don't dread that version. You look forward to it. Not because something is wrong with you, not because you've given up on people, but because a day with nothing required of you is not an empty day. It's a full one, just full of different things. You move at your own pace. You think without being interrupted. You work on whatever you actually want to work on. You eat when you're hungry. You sit in silence without filling it. And by the end of it, you feel more like yourself than you do after most social weekends. That's been true for a long time. You just didn't always have language for it. Men who are built this way don't usually announce it. They don't post about needing solitude or explain to people that they're introverted or make a whole identity out of preferring their own company. They just live that way quietly. They decline things without drama. They leave early without guilt. They stop making excuses for why they'd rather be home. You know what your best days actually look like, and they usually don't involve a crowd. Think about the last time you felt genuinely restored, not entertained, not distracted, actually restored, recharged at a level that carried over into the next day. Where were you? For men like you, the answer is almost never a party, almost never a crowded room, almost never an event that required you to perform for hours and then drive home feeling hollowed out. It was somewhere quiet, somewhere alone, somewhere you didn't have to manage anyone else's experience of you. That's not a personality flaw, that's a preference, a real one, consistent across your whole life if you look back far enough. You were probably the kid who could entertain himself for hours, who didn't need constant stimulation, who had an inner world that was interesting enough to spend time in. Other kids needed noise. You were fine without it. That didn't change. It just got quieter as the years went on. Now you're the man who can spend a full weekend alone and come back to Monday feeling better than the men who spent that same weekend running from event to event. You're not lonely. You're not isolated. You're not struggling. You're just running a different kind of system. And here's the thing. Most people around you have never quite understood. You're selective, not avoidant. There's a difference. You're not afraid of people. You're not hiding from connection. You have people you care about deeply, conversations that matter to you, relationships that have real weight. You just don't need volume. You never did. The obligation social calendar, the weekly group texts, the events you attend just to be seen attending, all of that costs you something real. It's not neutral. You feel it the next day, a kind of flatness, a mild drain that takes time to clear. Men who need social contact to feel right don't understand that cost. For them, the weekend alone would be the drain. The crowd restores them. For you, it works the other way around. You figured that out at some point. Maybe early, maybe after years of trying to operate like everyone else and noticing it never quite fit. At some point, you stopped forcing it. You stopped overscheduling. You stopped saying yes to things you knew would leave you empty. And you started protecting your time in a way that probably looks antisocial from the outside. But from the inside, it feels like the most honest thing you do. You don't explain that to most people. There's no clean way to say it without sounding like you're dismissing them. So you just show up when it matters, keep it shorter than they'd like, and go home when you've had enough. And you stop apologizing for that. Here's what's actually going on underneath it. Men who are built for solitude don't process stimulation the same way other men do. That's not a metaphor. That's just how it works. Social environments generate a particular kind of cognitive load. Managing conversations, reading rooms, tracking what people need from you, calibrating how you're coming across. That's real mental work. It runs in the background whether you're aware of it or not. For men who are wired the way you are, that load hits a ceiling faster. Not because you're weaker, because you're more sensitive to it. Your system reaches its limit sooner, and when it does, more input doesn't energize you. It depletes you. The men who thrive in social environments have a different relationship with that load. They don't feel the ceiling as quickly. Or they get a return from the stimulation that offsets the cost. For them, the crowd is fuel. For you, quiet is fuel. That's the underlying difference. And it shapes everything: how you work, how you rest, what you need at the end of a hard week, what kind of weekend actually sets you up for the week ahead. There's something else that happens in men who spend real time alone. The thinking goes deeper. When you're not managing external input, your mind does something different. It processes, it connects things, it works through problems at a level that conversation rarely reaches. Some of your clearest thinking, your best decisions, the things you figured out that actually mattered, those didn't happen in meetings or over dinner. They happened in the quiet. Alone time for a man built like you is not empty time. It's working time. Just internal work instead of external work. And that internal work produces something: clarity, direction, a sense of what you actually think, separate from what the room is pushing you toward. Men who never spend real time alone often don't know what they think until someone else tells them. You know what you think because you've spent enough time with your own mind to trust it. There's also a filtering that happens over years. Men who are comfortable alone tend to get clearer over time about what they actually want from other people. They stop tolerating connections that run on obligation. They stop maintaining relationships that exist only to fill calendar space. They stop showing up in rooms where nothing real ever gets said. That filtering looks like withdrawal from the outside. It isn't. It's curation. You're not pulling away from people. You're getting more precise about which people are worth showing up for. The men who make the cut, you're genuinely present with them. More present than most, because you're not depleted from maintaining 30 surface level connections at once. You have fewer relationships, but the ones you have are real. Here's where most people get this wrong. They assume men who prefer solitude are running from something: pain, rejection, some wound that made social connection feel unsafe. And for some men, that's true. Solitude as armor is a real thing. Using alone time to avoid the risk of being known, that's different from what's being described here. But that's not what you're doing. You're not avoiding connection. You're not protecting yourself from intimacy. You don't have a crowd of people you secretly wish you were closer to. You're not sitting at home on Friday night feeling like something is missing. You're sitting at home on Friday night because that's where you actually want to be. That distinction matters. The man hiding in solitude and the man who genuinely prefers it look the same from the outside, but they feel completely different from the inside. One is running from something, the other has simply arrived somewhere. You've arrived somewhere. It took years, probably. Years of trying to fit a social mold that never quite fit. Years of showing up to things that drained you because that's what you were supposed to do. Years of explaining yourself or not explaining yourself and watching people look at you like something was off. At some point, you stopped caring whether people understood it. You got quiet about it. You stopped defending it. You just started living it. And the life you built around that preference, the one where you protect your time and choose your company carefully and let yourself have the silence you actually need, that life works for you in a way that the louder version never did. That's not failure. That's not damage. That's not something to grow out of or fix or compensate for. That's just who you are. It always was. Men built for solitude don't need to be more social to be whole. They don't need to push past their preferences to prove they're capable of connection. They're already connected, just differently, to fewer people, at greater depth, with far less noise. The world will keep telling you that you should want more contact, more community, more presence in more rooms. That a full life looks busy and loud and surrounded. You know what a full life actually feels like for you? It's quiet, it's yours, and it doesn't need defending. You're not going to change this about yourself. Not because you can't, because there's nothing to change. This is not a phase you're in. This is not a wall you've built. This is not evidence that something went wrong somewhere. This is the way you've always been. The kid who was fine alone. The young man who never quite understood why everyone needed so much noise. The man now who looks at a wide-open Saturday and feels something most men wouldn't recognize: relief. Not because the world is too much, but because the quiet is where you actually live. Men who are built this way don't need to be understood by everyone. They need to understand themselves. And if something in this felt familiar, if you kept thinking that sounds right or that's exactly it, then you already do. You don't need a room full of people to feel like your life is real. You never did.